April 12th HPC meeting. I think there's been a lot that has taken place in between our last meeting and now. So as always, I'm encouraging people just to take care of yourselves as best as you can. Be mindful of how things are showing up in your body and what that is doing, and just taking care of yourselves as you need to, and that we will continue to move forward in the best way possible. I'm aware of the attendance concerns, you all, and so as an executive committee, we will look at ways that we can hopefully better address that. And also, it's close to nominations time, so at that point, we will also ask those who are having difficulty attending sort of what their desire is to remain. And then we will also confer with Metro Legal on what our ways are to have folks removed. So just know, as you all see, that it isn't anything personal, but we need to be able to move the work forward, and to do that, we do need to have people who are committed to showing up. So again, thank you all so much for that. And we will go through the attendance, and if you have any conflicts of interest, if you could advise me of that at the time that your name is called. Stephen Handy, Brian Lampa, Deidre Childress, Alex Smith, Beth Shin, Catherine Knowles, Deanna Allen Robb. I am present, no conflicts of interest. Kanitha Patterson, Amber Ellis, Sheila Decker, Tracy Pekovich, Councilwoman Toombs, Councilwoman Evans, Councilwoman Sepulveda, Waddell Wright, Laura Ferguson Mims, Vicky Batcher, Wendell Seagroves, Jeff Gibson, Tom Turner, and then staff, I see Treva Gilligan. All right. At this time, we will take a moment for our remembrance. My apologies, you all. I've been sitting here and realizing I do not have the list of those. We will come back to the remembrance. I see Wendell's here. If you all could begin reviewing your March 2023 HPC meeting minutes, which is in your packet. And after you're reading them, you should have had time beforehand. But if you all notice any corrections or edits that are needed, please advise at this time so that our admin assistant can capture that. Are there any corrections anyone's noted? Councilwoman Evans?
I just actually had not a correction, but just a question about, will the recording be able to pick up everybody if we're not? I don't know. I'm always mic'd one.
So we are doing our best. So what we do ask is that you take a moment to pause. Hannah is working the mic, so thank you, Councilwoman Evans, for that point of clarification. Make sure your mic is on before you are speaking, and if you start to speak and you don't hear the mic on, just give her a second so that we can make sure it is being captured. So thank you.
One correction, typo on my last name. It's Pekovitch. There in the council members present. Pekovitch. Thank you.
Any other noted corrections? All right. Thank you all for that. We will move to the report from the MHID Interim Director, Ms. April Calvin.
I'm having a fist fight with my will against these donuts behind me. So, pardon me. So let's see. So for April's notes, I guess, from the interim director's seat, I just want you all to know, I think we talk a little bit about this department becoming its own department on July 1. We've talked about that. So it will begin its fiscal year 23-24 of it being the Office of Homeless Services. That was voted on by Metro Council maybe 8 months ago. It's been a little while. And then, so currently we're in the process of identifying key positions and building out an org chart and creating a budget so that we'll have a budget in this year's budget that's proposed for Metro Council. Also, let's see, so we have several important positions that are actually posted as we speak, like our CFO and HR positions. So the intricate positions that would be needed in order to actually do business. Moving forward into some of the funding, I know you all, there was a request for the ARP funding, and just wanted to give a brief update over the ARP funding. That $50 million. So $25 million actually went to MDHA, and they made an announcement, and they're moving towards the actual contract process or agreement process for maybe 6 or 7. I'll let Treva, when she gets ready to give her report, she maybe can give you the exact details of the number of units that will come on, and also the number of developers that's involved in that. Then the $9 million of support services, we're moving forward with the agreement process as well between Metro Legal and Procurement Department, helping with getting agreements signed for 6 nonprofits. There will be 2 lead nonprofits in that space, providing the intensive case management and the ACT assertive community teams. And then also there's maybe 3 that's providing what we consider specialized support services. So they won't be a standalone, they will actually work as a team, as a total collective. So we're gonna have a Housing First Support Service collective meeting in mid-May, and I believe contracts and everything should be finalized and services will begin June 1st. There is the $4 million for the competitive grants. We're looking at releasing that late spring, and that will be capacity building grants and the agencies that are willing to apply or wanting to apply for those funds. And then the $3 million, you guys have in your package a report from what we share with Metro Council ARP Oversight Committee. And this is what we shared with them last week. And so that talks a little bit about some of the services that actually came on and the sign-on bonuses for the Landlord Engagement Department. And also, this is the first of its kind. I think a lot of service providers in Nashville are super excited to know that there is funding for furniture. There's many, many times that service providers helped people to get the vouchers that they need, help them secure the keys that they need for the house, and then they have to walk away because they're waiting for donated furniture to come in. So in this funding source, there is enough funding. We've made a deal with Court Furniture, and they're actually providing everything that would be needed to actually start an individual home. So, and you'd be surprised, some of our people that are experiencing homelessness, they actually have a storage and they actually have items. So maybe they just need supplement, maybe they need a new bed, or maybe they just need a sofa. So we have a earmarked dollar amount that is the max that we can help with. So that department has helped with serving, I don't have that data in front of me, the number of beds and units, but right now in the Lowberry Housing Collective, we have 145 properties that's willing to rent to our people, and actually 88 of those have actually received incentives from us, so they are agreeing to house people that are experiencing homelessness. Another thing that I noticed in the Lowberry Housing Collective is that every month, twice a month now, charged by Stacy, twice a month we call all 143 of those partnering landlords and property managers and real estate agents to see what their vacancies are for the month. And this month, I am shocked to say that they have 534 vacant units. I know, 534 vacant units. And they all have varying degrees of lower or barriers that they have agreed to lower. So, for us, we're looking at a couple of things here. As I walk this system, right, where do we have gaps in our system? One is there's property managers that have vacancies that's willing to rent to us. Two, we've been charged by MDHA. There's Section 8 vouchers and Shelter Plus care vouchers that are underutilized, and not so much underutilized because they're walking around in the pockets. That is a portion of it. But another piece is where service providers are not actually applying for them in a swift enough manner. And so Sally has been tasked, our department, right, not just Sally, have been tasked with coming up with a surge to utilize these Section 8 vouchers. I've been fortunate enough that as I walked into this seat, there's been resources, there's been housing opportunities, there's been underutilized Section 8 vouchers, and it seems like the stars are aligning. So I talk to my team often about having to do this work in prior years at prior locations where we did not have resources, and that was a stressor. So I do, and I understand, and I'm fully aware that having to do this work in a speedy fashion with severely underutilized resources, it's the same level of stress, but I want us to celebrate in that. So sometimes we get pushed, whether we have funds or not. So I want you all to know that you may hear conversations about a housing surge, about a voucher utilization rate, about us going to different shelters and trying to help move that body of work along a lot faster. That's exactly right. So it's not fake information. I just like to dispel some of the things that you may or may not believe. So that's where we at as far as funding is concerned. Strategic plan. This desk is not conducive to paperwork and all. So strategic plan, I think that we have a meeting here. The strategic refresh meeting is towards the end of April. That team's doing really great work to add some metrics to that. We also have systems mapping that's coming on board with SHK Consultant and her team, United Way, and Vanderbilt and Metro Homeless Impact Division. So you guys should be receiving some dates and times of when we're going to move forward with the systems mapping project. Let's see, we're still working with connecting with HUD-TA. HUD-TA made four really strong recommendations, and they want to give our community time to absorb the shock of that. Fair? Fair. And so, when we think about an outdoor housing strategy, one thing that they tasked us with, downsizing committees, putting some bylaws with our governance structure, which may help with this attendance thing that we keep talking about, and then also the unified leadership for the collaborative applicant and the lead entity on homelessness. And those are some of their recommendations. So as we are absorbing the shock of that, we're looking to re-engage with them, hopefully in the near future. Talk a little bit about our outdoor encampment plan. One of the things that stresses me the most is the state is moving forward with closing camps. And I want to make sure we are all clear on the difference between a camp sweep and a housing surge. And what I have committed to doing while in this role is anytime we look for a camp to be closed, having enough resources or housing opportunities and or referrals to be able to make. What the state is doing is moving people down the road. And sometimes they'll notify my department, sometimes they won't. Sometimes I'll hear about it from council members as they're driving down the street, and the state just closed the camp. And I'll hear from other HPC members that the state just closed the camp. We've had several conversations with them, asking them to follow our community strategy, expressing to them that we have resources that's dedicated to this space. They actually have identified a little bit over 30 properties of state properties where people are camping, and that holds over 130 people. They would like for us to divert our resources to helping them to clear their locations. And we're expressing to them that our community has already spoken. We have drafted a plan. We have designed a plan. We have implemented a plan, and we're asking them to wait for our plan to move forward. So Ginger has tasked from the mayor's office. She's tasked them with what resources will the state bring to the 134 people that live on their property? You know, will the Department of Mental Health and Addiction come on board? Does THDA have any housing resources? So I want you all to know we're giving them a little bit of pushback, but even with the pushback, they're still moving forward with, last week they closed 2 locations without our assistance. And so that means people were just displaced from where they were staying. I think that what's really important is there was a report that went out maybe 2 days ago that really speaks to camp sweeps. And when there is a camp sweep, there is a higher rate of mortality. There probably is a higher rate of overdose. People are being displaced from where they were standing or typically sleeping, which is different, and what we've shared with the state, which is totally different than the housing plan that we have. They're actually engaged, connected to resources. Everyone knows their name. They get moved together, as many as possible for the locations that we have available. And the housing resources and, you know, medical attention, there's a lot that goes into that. So we've expressed that to them. Just want you all to know that, you know, that's kind of where we're at. If you have any political will, I know the state's kind of doing several other things right now as well, so I don't want to sound like the homelessness service providers are in a battle with the state at this point in time, but there is a big difference between a housing sweep and a housing surge, or an encampment sweep and a housing surge. So for us, you know, in the last 2 camps, we've housed over 97 people, and 87% of them remain in either interim housing or permanent housing. 3%, only 3% out of 97 people actually returned to homelessness out of the last 2 locations. I know I'm going long, so I'm going to move. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Vicki.
I just had a question with what you just said. You said that 3% of those had exited back into homelessness. Do we know why?
Yeah, we're looking to do some customer satisfaction surveys with one of our interim housing locations. We've asked them to do that, an exit interview, and it's for multiple reasons. You know, not any one reason why, whether it's maybe they don't accept pets at that location, or maybe it's more sobriety based. And actually one went into a recovery program, detoxed, and then left. So we're looking into that, but thanks for asking. Let's see if there's anything else. Sure, there's a whole lot more. I do want to give special credit and attention to Ginger Hauser. She's not here, so we'll have to make sure she's aware. Any of the Metro Council members and Open Table and anyone else that helped with that state bill 1334 and House Bill 1192. It did not make it out of the state out of the Senate or the House, so it did not move forward. And that's the bill that, you know, kind of talked about creating government-run sanctioned encampments and reducing the funding for permanent housing, and also taking away people's rights as they were experiencing mental health and wanting to force treatment. So a couple of things that I just want to end on. Housing cultivation. We have a lot of things going on here. And the next 12 months, if the stars align and the lumber comes in, right, we should have about 502 newly created units of housing. And that is 63 from the MDHA funding source. 88, Shangri-La is still moving forward. They're in the zoning process. 91 bed unit. I don't know if you've been down 2nd Avenue, but it looks awesome. That building is going up, and it's going up pretty fast. So that's 140. We have 120, which is a hotel conversion of someone that's doing private hotel conversion that's different from Shangri-La. And then that does not include being tasked with getting about 125 vouchers in the pockets of people experiencing homelessness within the next 3 to 6 months. So be encouraged. If there's nothing else, be encouraged. Thank you all so much.
Thank you for that update and all of those things. Use your mic. And Hannah, if you'll get Sheila.
Hello. I don't know if anybody has talked about this, but are you aware of Inspiritus, April? Sheila? Me? Inspiritus? It's on the property right across from where the mission is being built. It's the little church that operates there. They're building a 5-story building that is scheduled to break ground winter of this year that will have 80 senior and disabled units. So I wanted to, at least you guys have that information so you can connect with them and add that to the inventory of units that should be coming available sometime in 24, 25.
Thank you. So that's the type of information that's very helpful. I'm not sure if you all really have absorbed the amount of units and now how we can help folks get into those units, and then not only get into those units, but how do we help people sustain housing? So I think as part of what our job is as a planning council is that it's easy for us to get stuck in the mud and to get stuck in all the things that aren't working, but how are we creating a narrative so that the community is aware of what is going on? And so this is an opportunity to do so, which also leads us to the collaborative applicant report by Treva Gilligan.
Well, I'll stand up. Good morning. You should have in your packet this long sheet that it's identified as the COC FY 2022 funding. It was just announced in the last week or so, and it was a pleasant surprise that we got everything that we asked for, and it appears to be 11% increase over what was awarded last year. So that was good news. April referenced the Affordable Housing Gap Program, and she is correct. We've got 63 units that we're in the process of finalizing the developer agreements for. That's with 5 developers. 3 of those projects are currently under construction, so those units will come online quicker than the other 2. The other 2 are pending the start of construction. So those will come on a little bit later, but we anticipate all of them will be on by the middle of 2025. We are prepared we're meeting with the developers starting this week and next week to finalize the terms of the agreements. And I think we have another meeting with the committee that's overseeing the homeless portion of the ARP funds on the 18th. There was some concerns about the speed of the units coming online at the last meeting. Well, unfortunately, I mean, we're much farther ahead than we would be if we were starting from scratch with projects, because when a project starts from a concept, it's probably 5 years before you're going to see any units total. So even though I know a 24-month period sounds like a long time, in the construction world, it's a short time. So we're going to be meeting with that committee on the 18th to try to convince them to let us go ahead and issue the second RFP round, because we know that there's developers out there that want to take advantage of it, and we would anticipate, if they will agree to let us go ahead and do that, that we can obligate the rest of the money in short fashion. So that's pretty much all I have to report right now. I'll take any questions.
Any questions for Treva? Seeing no questions, we will move forward to the HMIS monthly data report from Hannah.
Good morning, everybody. We have your monthly report here. The things I would like to highlight are that 1,722 people experiencing homelessness were housed in Nashville over the past 12 months, which is an 11% decrease from the year previous to that, so the 12 months previous to that. So that 12-month number has continued to decrease, which I don't think is a surprise to anyone, but we don't love to see that. We did have 151 people experiencing homelessness move into permanent housing in the month of March. And most of those people moved into rapid rehousing, as we can see, almost 50%. And additionally, 54 of those people were exiting street outreach programs, so they were moving directly from the streets into permanent housing, which is really good. That's more than we've ever had on this monthly report in a single month, leaving street outreach for permanent housing. However, one negative thing that I do want to highlight is that 38 clients in March exited rapid rehousing back into homelessness. I think this was particularly aligned with the end of some ESGCV rapid rehousing funding and some programs that were not able to successfully transition everyone in their programs into continued permanent housing. I believe most of those people are currently staying in a mobile housing navigation center and continuing to work on permanent housing and Section 8, like the surge that April was talking about before. So hopefully they will not be in continued homelessness for very long. Are there any questions about the monthly report?
Seeing no questions, thank you, Hannah, for your report. The MHID Director position update will be provided by Derek, Metro Legal.
Just quickly, Ms. Pratt couldn't be here today, but has informed me that the executive committee of your organization has reached a decision of the candidate it recommends and has presented that to the mayor's office. And you are now waiting to be informed by the mayor's office whether they accept that recommendation or not. So that's the update at this point.
Thank you for that. Moving forward, I don't see Ginger. Is there someone who's given the mayor's office report on her behalf? I think April gave us quite a bit, so we'll actually just keep moving forward in our agenda, moving forward to new business, and we will have Daryl Hill with planning provide us with the Barnes Fund announcement. And if you all could turn towards the back, he will be giving the presentation at the mic there.
Good morning. Talk about the Barnes Fund. We're in round 11. This has been the most competitive round that we've had in several years. There was about $42 million in general funds that was requested, plus another $10.69 million requested from the ARPA subsection funding too. About $12.28 million in general funds. That's going to give approximately 612 units. There's about 11 grantees, and 4 of them are new. An additional $6.5 million ARPA funds would be paired with another $1 million for 136 units of older adult housing, and that's 62 years and older. The Barnes Fund, even though it has about 104 units over his lifetime that dealt with 30% AMI, they did not necessarily do permanent supportive housing until round 10, where they had 22 units that went with Park Center. In this round, there will be another 88 units of permanent supportive housing to go along with another 90 units of 30% AMI or less. Now, These are not final. There will be a meeting with the Housing Trust Fund that is scheduled for April the 25th, and it'll be from 2 to 4. That's where they will make their recommendations, and then it has to go to Metro Council. Hopefully that can get done by May, and then we can have the awards to be final. All right.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hill. Are there any questions for him? Okay, hearing none, we will move forward in our agenda, which leads us to the Collaborative Applicant Ad Hoc Committee. And so you heard briefly in April's report that one of the HUD TA recommendations was to align the collaborative applicant and the HMIS agencies in terms of moving work forward. And so as many of you all are aware, I'm going to read this on behalf of Susie, who is not here today. But we had a meeting on the regular scheduled meeting on February 22nd. And then there was a call meeting on March 16th of the COC General Membership, which was focused on the designation of the collaborative applicant and the HMIS lead. These designations are key responsibilities of the membership, and at the March 16th meeting, they concluded that an ad hoc committee should be formed to develop a specific process and timeline for making the designations. And then there were also some people who agreed or were willing to serve on the committee. Just to remind each of you, in addition to the training that the board had in August, you all should have your charter, which outlines how ad hoc committees are formed, which they are as needed for the operation of the continuum of care. The committee is expected to be time limited and focused on the accomplishment of the task for which it is appointed. Each committee shall have no power to act except such as is specifically conferred by the HPC. Upon completion of the task, the committee shall stand discharged. The HPC chair shall make appointments of all committee chairs. Committee members shall be appointed by the HPC chair based on recommendations from the respective committee chair or co-chairs. And so this particular ad hoc committee, what the purpose of this committee would be is to create a clear process and time frame for designating the collaborative applicant and HMIS lead. And if the COC general membership elects to change the designated entity, then they would determine what those necessary steps would be for that transition, and what they would really be doing. So these are some of the tasks that the committee would assure that members clearly understand the definition and the role of the collaborative applicant as defined by HUD federal regulations. They would review the process outlined in the HPC governance charter that outlines what the designation of the collaborative applicant's roles and duties and responsibilities are. They would need to review the summary of steps from the general membership minutes 5 years ago when they last designated the collaborative applicant and the HMIS lead. That membership requested be taken prior to another vote. They just need to review that. That's one part. The other thing is that the HUD technical assistance team has provided the city with procedural steps to change the collaborative applicant. This committee could review those and the document that has been produced by them, and then revise the community steps and timeframes as appropriately indicated for the Davidson County Continuum of Care, because some of those are outlined steps that are federal regulations, which, as you all know, or I shouldn't say that, I am unaware of any of us having the power to overrule federal rules and regulations. Research what HUD cites. So the other concern that the committee had is how is the collaborative applicant and the COC general membership body, how is the collaborative applicant and the HMIS lead agency monitored? And there are some tools that are on the HUD website. So this team could research the HUD sites for what available tools exist. And it could also contact other continuum of cares to find out the steps they have taken to evaluate their collaborative applicant and HMIS lead performance. And then based upon these steps, they could recommend procedural steps based on research and construct the time frame and process for performing the above mentioned evaluations. And then decide any dates of any additional meetings needed. They would also need in the dates of the committee, when the work of the committee should be complete, and report out to the general membership and the Homelessness Planning Council. And so I do have a list of folks that are interested, what we would need to do, because per the charter is that we want to also make sure that these committee members are understanding of what the work is, and also more importantly, still agreeable to serve. And so if the HPC moves today to form this ad hoc committee, then we will move from there to look at what committee members would be on there. Are there any questions before we move with this piece of correspondence? And so what I would need at this time, you have the information before you, and I would need to know what the pleasure of the body is for forming this ad hoc committee.
Sorry, I actually do have one question. So we're being asked to appoint the committee. The committee then makes a recommendation to us or to the COC?
To both.
And then do we make a recommendation to the COC on what happens with the collaborative applicant and the HMIS lead?
You can make the recommendation, but the ultimate vote is by the general body of the continuum of care.
Right, but are we making the we as the HPC making the recommendation, or is the ad hoc committee making the recommendation?
Good question. I think the ad hoc committee, so they don't necessarily make, that's a good clarifying question. Based upon these steps, they are not making any recommendation. Their steps are very clear. They are simply researching what would be some evaluation tools, and also to designate how the steps look in terms of, so there's already a timeline there. If the timeline needs to be adjusted for what it is, but there is not an official recommendation. According to these steps, they could make a recommendation. I was not at that COC journal meeting, so this was my point in having it be very specific so that those of us who were not there could understand what the purpose of the committee would be. Because ultimately, too, there are two leadership bodies of each of these organizations. And so that would have some say-so in this as well, because we don't know what funding looks like with agencies and all of those things, and what the desire is of that leadership body. So that is why we're sticking to more so what would be some steps around, again, evaluation tools. What does the community steps look like? And are we aware of what the roles of the collaborative applicant is? And what does it say in our charter? And then making sure the body is more aware is what I'm understanding, because there are still some people with the general COC that weren't as clear of what the formulation would, what the combining of those two would look like. Any other questions? What is the pleasure of the body? Is it, and that's up to you all if you want to move forward with the ad hoc committee or not. Ms. Allen Robb.
Hi, good morning, everyone. I'm recovering from strep throat. I'll give you a hug later. Sorry for being late. May I repeat back what I understand, just for clarity? At the COC general membership meeting, the COC recommended that an ad hoc committee be formed to look at this process for designating a collaborative applicant. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And you're asking what's the pleasure of our membership today?
Based off of the very specific tasks that have been read related to what this committee would do, yes.
Yes, I'd like to bring a motion to the floor. Strep throat. I move that we adopt the recommendation to form an ad hoc committee to review the process as presented.
Been moved by Deanna Allen Robb, seconded by Vicky Batcher, that an ad hoc committee be formed to review the collaborative applicant designation process with the noted steps that have been provided. Are there any questions? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Opposed? Any abstentions? Motion carries. Thank you all for that. We will have updates in future meeting agendas. Moving forward to the point in time committee or point in time count update. And I am not, there's not, who's giving that update? Your mic.
Process.
Treva, your mic.
They are still in the process of reviewing the data and finalizing the numbers now. I think our communications office sent it over to Elmhead and Hannah and Nam yesterday to review. So I would anticipate probably that the number, it'll be released maybe next week or not too long after today. Anna, do you have anything to add?
The press release is just being talked about, so I'm hoping it's going to be out any minute.
Oh, well, it very well may be. So, but like I said, I know it's being finalized.
All right. I know in the federal government, at least VA, we have a whole saying that says hurry up and wait. So apparently Metro has that same rule. I don't know, but we will be on the lookout for the press release. What we can do is once the official release is out, if it's prior to our next meeting, even though we would still give an update, we will make sure it is included in your email notifications of the next meeting. Allison, can you make sure? All right. So before we move on to board matters and committee updates, I do want to move back up into the agenda to do our remembrance. And so if we could take a moment to center ourselves to remember those who have lost lives in the past month. John Wilson Patterson, known as Country, Christopher Perrin, Tony England, Juan Mena, Thomas Mitchell, Leonard Sanford, Tamika Clark, Deja Jenkins, and Anthony Sweat. If we could take a moment of silence just to reflect and remember those lives. All right, thank you all for that and the flexibility of the agenda as well. So moving forward to our board matters and committee updates, the HPC ad hoc committee that was previously formed under the direction of Dr. Laura Ferguson Mims, that committee has been emailed possible meeting dates to begin their work. And so we are hopeful by the next HPC meeting, there will be an update related to the progress that that committee has made. That would be so that the final, if needed, a final report no later than June would hopefully be available to you all. And she also sends her regrets today, but had another work training to attend. Moving forward in our Consumer Advisory Board public comment, Sheila Decker.
Good morning. We received one public comment this month, not related to HPC agenda items, and that was forwarded to Metro Homeless Impact Division. It was a question regarding a specific encampment, and that was all I have to report.
Thank you, Sheila, for continuing to keep track of that. It is appreciated, and as you all know, noted On your agenda is always ways in which you can submit public comment and share when others are asking. Before we go to the story of progress, because this happens all meetings, we do this great story of progress and then people have questions, announcements, and I really want us to end on a high note today. So before we go to story of progress, are there any questions, unreadiness, or anything anyone needs to share before we move forward to the story of progress? Yes.
Catherine wanted me to share that she will be returning next month. Her hope was to come this morning, but she just was not ready yet to make that walk. But she's doing well. She returned back to work, and she sends all of you your thank you for the thoughts and prayers that you've sent and well wishes to her. So hopefully we'll see her back here next month.
She also sent a thank you card, but I forgot to bring that today. So thank you for that. Anyone else have any comments? Okay, then at this point, we will move forward with the story of progress by Neighborhood Health.
Neighborhood Health was not able to make it today. We were going to get Brian to give a video clip, but you know, Stacy and technology. I'm just kidding. Just kidding. Yeah. Yeah. So I just wanted to give a little bit of an update on the work that Neighborhood Health is doing with the interim gap housing locations. They have went into contract with, or actually they're still working on the agreement process, and they have committed to providing intensive medical attention to the roadway interim gap housing location and also the 4 other CCF interim gap housing locations. And that's everything from medical attention to being on the site, even helping with prescriptions. Also, a huge thing that this is going to help with is documenting disability. One of the reasons that we are really low on getting Shelter Plus Care vouchers out and into the pockets of people that actually need them. It's because it's a hard process for us to document disability throughout our COC. And so that's going to help with that as well. This was thought of by the captain at the Salvation Army and Ryan Lasore at CCF, knowing that some of the medical needs and attention, they have a hard time getting people in an Uber or a Lyft or on the bus to get them to the hospital for medical attention. And it could be something as simple as a bandage or wound care. We had some people initially with burns on their feet, and they just wouldn't go to the hospital. So having someone there on site, they've already started doing that without being in contract. So I do want to give them kudos for that. From maybe the second week of the first camp closing, they actually had boots on the ground at Roadway, and but not so much at CCF at that point in time, but was already providing that service to people and was probably providing some life-saving care to help reduce infection that comes along with wound care. And then also connecting people to some of the mental health services that they need. I also want to say, I see Tracy's here with Mental Health Co-op. They've been there from the start as well. They were actually in the camp, but they're from the start as well when people moved in to help with providing that unconditional, radical, loving care. So I can't give it all of the what Brian would give, but hopefully he'll be here for our May meeting. He's excited to share this partnership. I think it's kind of the first of its kind with this level of partnership and even having prescription care involved. So I'm excited for that because our participants sometimes, even if you give them a bus pass or even if you give them a ride to the hospital, you maybe have to put your foot on the door to pull them out of the door to get in to see the doctor. So we experienced that quite a bit with the participants that moved in from Roadway, just not wanting that medical care because they did not want to leave the home or the location. I think in the camps, they were so used to not wanting to leave their tent because things would come up missing. If they left for any short amount of time, and then not knowing if their wound care is going to be something that will keep them in the hospital. So they don't want to go because they're afraid that they may have to be admitted. And we actually had some that, you know, took it upon themselves to leave the hospital against medical care. So having this attention to them at their locations where they're residing is going to be a game changer for life-saving measures for people. Any questions for me?
Okay, well, thank you all so much. Just pay attention that the next meeting is May 10th at 8:30 a.m. And then also you have some important dates listed on your agenda related to the strategic refresh as well. So we will adjourn the meeting at 9:45 a.m. And thank you all so much for your time and attention to the cause. Have a great rest of your day.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.